Hi YouTube, how are you doing? And welcome back to Phasmophobia. As you know, recently I made the complete ghost guide for Phasmophobia, where I talked about literally everything there is to know about every single ghost in Phasmophobia. Now that video was almost 3 hours long because there's just so many mechanics in this game. This game has a lot to learn, and if you want to watch that, I'll link that video over in the top right. However, what I didn't talk about in that video is how you actually play Phasmophobia. There's a lot of stuff that you can learn that is going to be the same across all of the different ghosts. How do you find the ghost? How do you get the evidence? How do you keep yourself safe? How do you deal with some special, like the ghost room changing and stuff like that? There's a lot to the game that I usually don't even talk about because it's so second nature to me at this point, because I've played this game for over 2,000 hours. However, I thought it would be extremely useful for people just starting out, or even people that are pretty familiar with the game, to like hop into my brain and see the game from my perspective. I'm just going to be talking about literally everything I'm thinking, how to deal with all kinds of stuff in the game, and yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun, and I hope you join us. If you're not subscribed, please do so. If you like the video, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. But let's not waste any more time. Let's hop into the game. Let's go. Alrighty, here we are. We got Ella Winter. This guy right here is very interesting, actually.
There's been no reports of violence or sightings, but please remain careful.
No reports of violence or sighting. You know what that means? Absolutely fucking nothing. That guy spews nonsense. Even though it sounds like we have reports of violence and it looks like they left in a hurry or all kinds of stuff like that, it means nothing. It's just flavor text. This has been confirmed by the developers, so don't get it twisted. It is just something to give the game some extra flair. Don't think that it means anything about the game. Now, all right, so I'm gonna take this serious. We're gonna play several games, and I'm just gonna be talking about literally everything. As you see, I have all the items here, so we'll get to talk about all of them and how to use them. When you start out the game, I quickly check out what the ghost name is, which I used to not do that with the new screen. I used to forget to check that, but sometimes you have some really funny names like Michael Jackson or Lisa. Look out for Lisas, they're my favorite ghosts. And also quickly check about the objectives. If you're playing on intermediate or amateur, you will always also see right here if it responds to alone or in a group, and that means if you're using the spirit box, you have to isolate everyone, like you have to be alone in the ghost room and then use the spirit box. If it says alone, if it says everyone, it doesn't matter. But if you're playing on professional or higher, which we're playing on professional right now, it will just say we're unsure. So you have to like isolate by default, basically. And then also check the objectives, which is parabolic microphone, repel the ghost, and candle. All right, those are some, so one, usually I split these into two different categories in my brain. One of them is, am I going to have to do a hunt for this? So in this case, repelling requires a hunt, whereas parabolic microphone and candle does not require a hunt. All right. So always pick up the key. I mean, it's very easy now to not forget the key. It used to be a whole lot harder because it was back there. Also, very important. How could I gloss over this? You already see my brain going way too fast. What items do you use when you start the game? Obviously, when you start out, you have no idea where the ghost is. So you need to pick some items, especially if you're playing solo, but even if you're playing in multiplayer, you need to pick up some items that allow you to find the ghost room. Now, the best ghost finding tool by far is just your ears alone. If you can hear the ghost and hear where it's coming from or hear where it's throwing stuff around, you can find it that way. So what I like to use is the EMF, because if I hear a sound coming from like the kitchen area in Tanglewood, we're on Tanglewood right now, I can run there and then run around quickly and see if I get any EMF signal. So it kind of helps it like supports my ability to hear the ghost very well. But if you're not using a headset or you're just not as good as hearing the ghost doing stuff or where it's coming from, you can instead use other equipment such as the parabolic microphone, especially useful on big maps. Wouldn't recommend it on small maps, but on big maps, I honestly usually drop my EMF for a paramic because the paramic is very, very useful on big maps. You can also take the thermo, but keep in mind that the temperature always starts low on professional, and you need to turn on the breaker first, and then the temperature will slowly rise, and then the ghost room will stand out. So it can take like up to 2-3 minutes for that to even matter. Besides that, you can also take stuff like the video cam or the spirit box. I see people use sometimes. Especially the video cam can be useful because you can see orbs, which is always the ghost room. If you see orbs, that's always in the ghost room. So if you're playing multiplayer, someone taking the cam can be super useful, and someone taking the spirit box can be super useful as well. But anyway, I'm gonna start with the EMF and the photo cam because I really like using the photo cam to quickly find the bone, maybe take a photo of the cursed possession, and if the ghost shows itself, getting that ghost photo early, because getting the ghost photo can sometimes be super tricky. Now, I always pick up this key because the ghost can start the car in the garage, which makes a very annoying sound. It's super loud, and if you don't have the car key, you can't turn that off. When I start the game, I usually do a few things. First of all, it's important, which you should practice this because I don't always do it myself. You should always focus on finding a hiding spot right away, because there are some ghosts, like the demon, that can hunt immediately. So if you don't have an escape plan, oh, Jesus Christ. Okay then, hello there. So if you don't have an escape plan, you might get caught. Oh, well, hello there. We're finding all kinds of stuff. All right, this ghost is not messing around. Now, obviously, right there, I got a little lucky because I found EMF 5 really quickly, which isn't hard evidence to get, because I'm going to be talking as well about which evidences are easy and you can rule out quickly, and which evidences are hard and you can basically never rule out. So yeah, in this case, I have this ghost, this hiding spot, which is going to be useful. Now, what just happened, right? We just got a ghost event. There's a lot to talk about, by the way. I'm going to play several games, so don't worry about it. And if you have any questions, make sure to post them in the comments down below, because I can always do an additional video. If your question doesn't get covered in this one, I'll do additional videos where I cover all of the other questions. Now, what just happened is a ghost event. Ghost events are special. Ghost events do not mean that a ghost is in that area, and you can also hear it. It's throwing a lot of stuff around over there. Ghost events do not mean that the ghost is in that immediate area. It means that the ghost is like in a larger area around you, because when the ghost does a ghost event, it will teleport. It will teleport to your location. So it does not mean at all that this is the ghost room. It just means that it's in like, it honestly doesn't even mean anything. Like it can be anywhere. It just means that it is an active ghost. And in this case, which it's not a shade, because it did a ghost event as soon as we started, which if you want to know all the ins and out about all the ghosts, again, I made a complete ghost guide on that, so I'm not gonna, I mean, I'm gonna be talking about it, but I'm not gonna be like covering everything there is to know about all the ghosts. Now, as you can see, there's a plate on the ground. What is important to know, let me also quickly turn on the breaker. The breaker can be in two places in this map. It can be either here, or it can be in the basement. In this case, it's going to be in the basement. What's really important to know about Phasmo is that every single map is fixed. There is no procedural generation in terms of the... Oh, it closed the door. We're getting lots of stuff. You can always take a photo of the door in the middle on these white doors, because that's where the fingerprint will show up. And if you want to check for fingerprints in this case, you can take two photos, because the first photo will be interactions, and then the second photo will be the fingerprint, which we got in this case. So easy peasy. We instantly found two of our evidences, which is going a little fast. That's why I'm doing multiple games, because sometimes the ghost goes extremely fast. Sometimes the ghost goes extremely slow. Apparently, in this case, the ghost wants to speed run. But anyway, also we find the bone right here, which is going to be somewhere on the map. Now they used to be super annoying, the bones, but now they mostly spawn in areas that you can reach. Still, on especially big maps, they can spawn out of bounds. But anyway, as I'm saying, the maps are fixed. So if you know very closely how all the maps are designed, and you see an item that is out of place, you know, oh, wait a minute, the ghost did that. So in this case, I know that plate is not supposed to be on the ground. So even when there's no EMF anymore, because the ghost threw this a while ago, I still know, okay, the ghost is here, because there's a plate on the ground, there's the spoon on the ground, etc. There's a cup over there, there's even a spoon over there. So in this case, we have a large area of interactions. What you have to keep in mind with interactions is that they don't necessarily mean the ghost is in that room. So in this case, if I didn't know that those two items were thrown as well, in this case, I shouldn't immediately assume, oh, the ghost is in the kitchen area here, because the ghost actually can interact in a large radius around it, which can also go through walls. So in this case, it could have also been over here in the garage and then throw this through the wall onto the ground. So you have to kind of check in an area, which can be especially important in areas where there's no items. So in this case, if you have a ghost that's in this room, if it's throwing a bunch of items in the surrounding area, you have to keep in mind that this room is also an option, because there's no items in this room. Now, it can touch doors, obviously, as it's doing right here, so that way you can figure it out, but you won't always have it touch a bunch of doors. Okay, so we found the ghost room, or we found the first pass through the house. You want to find the general ghost area. You want to find, where do I have to, like, put my equipment down? Where do we have to figure out what is the exact ghost room? So in this case, my suspicions are it's going to be dining or kitchen, utility, or garage. That's kind of like my prediction. It can also be living room. I hope it's not, because some rooms are much harder than others. Rooms that have no doors, have no light switches, have no items are usually much harder than other rooms, such as the living room. There's barely any items. There's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 items in this room, 1 window, 1 light switch super far away, and 2 doors. So yeah, there's very little to interact over there, so it makes the room a lot harder to deal with. But anyway, I'm gonna go back now, and because I'm playing solo, I have to do everything myself, which I think solo is like a good point. It's a good way to show off the game because I have to do everything, right? If I'm playing with other people, they're gonna be doing some of the work, so you will miss a lot. So that's why I'm doing the solo. All right. So what items do you take on the second way through? Also, another very important thing that I did, I dropped my flashlight. You probably, if you are just starting to play this game, don't ever drop your flashlight. If you can, because you have lit up the way to the exit and you know it's safe because you're high sanity, which are already pretty low sanity, by the way, because the ghost did some ghost events. But if you have lit up your way to the exit, and you know, in just in case, you also know there's like a hiding spot on your way there, there's really no reason to take your flashlight back, because if you drop your flashlight, you will all of a sudden add 50% to your inventory. Instead of being able to carry 2 items, you can now carry 3 items. So you can carry 1 full additional item back to the house, which, especially if you're playing solo, is super important because it can save you quite a few trips. Now, when I decide my first set of items, I usually pick items that are easy to find evidence with. So in this case, the easiest evidences by far are fingerprints, orbs, and spirit box. Those usually, if the ghost touches a door, you will almost instantly get fingerprints, unless it's a very specific ghost, the Obake. That's the only ghost that can't leave fingerprints if it has fingerprints. Obviously, assuming you're playing on a difficulty that has all the evidence. If you're playing on nightmare mode, or in the future insanity mode, there's going to be 1 or 2 pieces of evidence hidden, so then this doesn't apply. But I'm playing on professional because I think that's the most important starting point. If you're playing on nightmare mode, like, some of these things don't apply, but you also know a lot more about the game. So I'm going to be taking those easy evidences. Now, you could also make an argument for taking the hard evidence initially, like taking the ghostwriting book and the dots is actually not a bad idea at all, because it takes usually a while to get either of those. It is a good idea to take them early so you don't have to wait as long. Now, I'm going to take 1 pill as well. So I'm playing on professional. The pills heal 35 sanity, I think. Also, quickly, sorry, I'm gonna continue. I'm going on so many tangents. What you see right here, you see these 4 level spikes. There's a 4 spike here and a 4 spike here, while I'm not even in the room or in the house at all. These are what I call EMF 5 spikes. If you see a spike that's 4 or 5 levels high while you're not even in the room, you should take a mental note that it's probably gonna be EMF 5, because the only things that could give that high of a spike are hunts, which give like a 10 spike, or ghost events, or like special ghost abilities such as the poltergeist throw, which could give a big spike, or the twinteraction if it's like a super nice clean twinteraction. Those can give high spikes, but usually when you see those spikes and you see a lot of them, it is always going to be an EMF 5 ghost, which in this case is the case because we have EMF 5, so we know that for sure. So that's something that you can do to figure out EMF without even going into the house at all. Hey Raiders, welcome Raiders. So that's a really useful thing to know. Now, in this case, we already have so much evidence that I could also take other stuff. So in this case, we know that orbs would give us Obake. Spirit box isn't even possible, so I shouldn't take the spirit box, because the spirit box is pointless. Also, I think I have my audio set to text-to-speech, which if you are interested in doing this, which is you can talk without using your microphone, you can go into your settings and you can go into the voice recognition mode and turn it to text instead of Windows or Vosk. So that's something you can do, which also applies to the Ouija board. So that can be super useful. Anyway, I'm gonna take the writing book because that's the slowest by far, because writing book will give us Myling, freezing temperature will give us Jinn. So yeah, ghost orb, dots. So the spirit box is just not gonna be the case ever. Anyway, let's go into the house. Now, there's a few evidences that are super useful. The spirit box and the ghost orb evidence are, in my opinion, the most useful evidence and that make the ghost easier. Because if you have one of those evidences, you know, you're gonna have a really easy time finding the ghost if it ever changes room or it roams, stuff like that. Because, for example, the spirit box, you can just talk to the ghost. Oh, well, there Jesus Christ, what an easy game. There's orbs. As you can see, you see orbs. So what do these orbs mean? These orbs mean two things. First off, or they can mean three things. First off is an evidence. So we click on ghost orbs. However, secondly, it could also mean that you're dealing with a mimic, because the mimic has a special ability where it will always have orbs. Even if you have zero evidence enabled in your custom difficulty settings, it will always have orbs. So you need to keep in mind that if you have orbs and a combination, so the combination for mimic is fingerprints, spirit box, and freezing. If you have any of these two plus orbs, you might think, for example, let's say it's this, you might think it's a Hantu, but it could actually be a mimic. So you need to look out if you don't get baited. So you need to look for a spirit box as well in this case. But anyway, we know what ghost it is. It is an Obake, which is actually a special ghost. That means there's a special potential fingerprint, which I don't think it doesn't show any fingerprints right now. However, the other very important thing about orbs, which often gets overlooked, is that orbs mean that is the ghost room. The orbs will always show up in the ghost room. When the ghost roams, it doesn't move the ghost orbs, which I always have in mind that for the mimic, it does move the ghost orbs when it roams, but I'm not entirely sure about that. So I would just keep in mind, this applies 99% of the time, that the ghost orbs will be in the ghost room. So if the ghost room ever changes, you can see that by looking for orbs again. If the orbs are no longer here, so if I look again at this room and there's no orbs, which are still orbs, you can see them right now, they show up instantly. There's rarely a chance you'll miss orbs. There are situations in which they can be a little harder to see, such as on campsite maps, in difficult weather, stuff like that, that can be literally impossible to see. I had a game that took me about 40 minutes and I didn't ever see the orbs, which was extremely annoying, by the way. This will tell you the ghost room, which, oh god, which can help you figure out where the ghost is and if it's changing ghost room. Now, we have focused this one because the ghost just speedran us so hard, meant that we literally have figured out the ghost, which that's usually going to be your first priority. Your first priority is... Jesus Christ, this ghost is such an attention seeker. Your first priority, which this is why many people lose their mind when playing Phasmo, because they get so overwhelmed with what the ghost is doing that they kind of forget what they have to do. So that's when you play the game as much as I do, you kind of like zone out all the rest and you can focus. Like I can automatically do all the stuff I need to do and then focus on the rest of the game with my like active brain, which makes this game super fun to play for me. So I know if the ghost hunts, I'll run over there to the hiding spot. Now, let me think. So in this case, we've done our first objective, because the first objective is always figure out what the ghost is. It's not an optional objective. That's like a required objective. In this case, we know it's an Obake for sure. We've seen the EMF, we've seen the fingerprints, and we've seen the ghost orbs, obviously. So we are dealing with the Obake. Now then you can focus on the secondary objectives, or additionally, if the ghost is a ghost event. There you go. It is a ghost event. As I said, high spikes usually mean ghost events. So in this case, we have an EMF 4. That means ghost event. So if I leave, you're gonna see a big spike on the board as well. So we found the ghost. Now, usually you can focus on the side objectives while you're collecting evidence, because the evidence won't always be as fast as here. If you have writing or dots, it can take a while to get that evidence. If you're playing on nightmare mode, it can take a while. Now in this case, we need to do candle, which for candle on this map, you only have to take a lighter. We need to do oh god, I should have left my flashlight and a paramic. And then we also need to repel the ghost during a hunt. Now, some maps, which there's only a few of them, have candles on the map themselves. So in this case, I know there's a candle right here. So you can just take the candle from the map itself and bring it over to the ghost room, put it there, and then if the ghost blows it out, you're going to get yourself an objective. Now, I'm also going to quickly grab the smudge stick. Oh, another ghost event. If you see the lights go up like that, or you see doors close, you usually have a ghost event that's happening, or additionally, the ghost does it, but especially if it happens far away from the ghost room, it's usually a ghost event, that's actually important. So what is a main thing that you don't know when you're starting out is how to stay alive. I usually am not scared of the ghost at all, because I know I have kind of like an internal measure of what my sanity is at a certain point, and if there are ghosts that hunt above the 50% sanity threshold that I need to be careful of. But in this case, we even know it's an Obake. Obake's hunt at 50% sanity, so if I'm above 50%, it can't hunt unless I use the Cursed Possession, which I haven't showed you yet. But you don't have to worry about early hunts at all. Now, there's many ways to keep your sanity high. Taking sanity pills will restore your sanity, which is the only way you can restore your sanity outside of using the tarot cards. But the tarot cards, I don't know if we have tarot cards. I should check it in a sec. Especially in multiplayer, they are not very reliable, because in single player they're extremely reliable, but in multiplayer they're not, because you only have 4 sanity pills for an entire team, so you will usually get your sanity pretty low, so you need to be pretty careful and also try to go faster than you're playing in single player. But in single player you're alone, so you're allowed to go a little slower and control your sanity with the sanity pills. Now, there's other things you can do to keep yourself safe and keep your sanity high. The main thing is holding, yeah, it did the candle blow up, by the way, is holding a candle. As long as you hold a candle in your hand, you will not drop any passive sanity at all. Now, there is an important distinction there. You will not drop any passive sanity. So if you're just in the dark, your sanity will drain automatically, which will bring you closer and closer to being able to be hunted. However, if you're holding a candle, it counts as being in the light, so you're not going to drop your sanity. But you can still drop sanity through ghost events. If the ghost does like an airball and it touches you, or it does like one of those walking events where it walks towards you and touches you, that will still drop your sanity. Now, what's important about those ghost events is that you can avoid losing sanity by running away from them. If the ghost does an airball and it floats towards you, run the heck out of there. If it doesn't touch you, it won't drop your sanity. If the ghost manifests itself and it walks towards you and it touches you, you will lose sanity. But if you run away, it won't. If the ghost stands still, singing or doing something else, if you don't walk into it, you won't lose any sanity. So those are very important things to keep in mind to prevent yourself from losing any sanity from ghost events. But that is like, if you have a super active ghost, you will usually get into hunting range pretty quickly, which we have absolutely here. This is a crazy ghost. But anyway, we already have the candle. Now, there is an exception to the candle if you have a Moroi and you have either used the spirit box or the parabolic microphone. There is a chance that you are cursed, which means your sanity will drop regardless of if you're holding a candle or not. So that's the only exception. I saw people in chat talk about it. That's why I thought I'd mention it. I'm mostly focusing on the things that are applicable to every single one of the ghosts and not just like one specific ghost. But anyway, now we're going to take a smudge stick, because repel the ghost during a hunt. How do you even complete that objective? There's 2 objectives that have, there's actually 3 objectives kind of like this. There is the cleanse the ghost with the smudge stick objective, there's the repel the ghost with the smudge stick objective, and there's the escape the ghost objective. The escape the ghost objective does not require a smudge stick. As long as you are seen during a hunt, which you have to be seen and then survive by any means, either looping it or hiding or smudging, whatever. If you see it and everyone survives, if you survive but your teammate dies, it doesn't count. Everyone has to live. You will mark the escape the ghost objective, but you have to be seen. You can't just hide from the start and assume it'll mark the objective. You have to actually escape it. Now, the other one is repel the ghost during a hunt, which for that you have to also be well, you don't have to be seen by the ghost. You just have to apply the smudge stick during the hunt. So you have to, someone has to be close to the ghost, then you have to smudge it, which you don't necessarily have to be seen for this to count, I'm pretty sure. Because for the escape, you have to be seen. For the repel, you don't, as long as you just apply the effect to the ghost. Now, then there's also cleanse, which is kind of similar to repel, because you can repel it and at the same time also cleanse it. So those can kind of like, you can do them at the exact same time. However, you can also do the cleanse outside of the hunt. So you can just cleanse the ghost by walking into the ghost room, doing a smudge stick, running around, and that'll count as the cleanse. You have to be seen. No, I swear that you can get the repel without getting the escape the ghost objective. Like, you can smudge the ghost. Let's try it. Let's put it to the test right here. I mean, I kind of want to do it in multiple ways. Let me quickly grab 2 of them. And we're also going to grab the Cursed Possession right now. So now, I'm going into the second phase of the game. So we have completed the ghost investigation. Now, you either have to like figure out you're on nightmare mode and you have to do some tricks to figure out what ghost you're dealing with. Like some ghosts, you're gonna have to do something during a hunt to figure out which you're dealing with. Like let's say in this case, if we didn't have ghost orbs, we could figure out a djinn based on its speed during a hunt. We could figure out a myling based on its footstep noise during a hunt. So there's a lot of ghosts you can figure out during a hunt. So that's why being able to survive hunts is extremely important. And also just like getting hunts, you need to be able to survive them. So anyway, we are 50% sanity, so we're probably gonna get hunted really soon. Let me quickly check what my cursed item is. It's not music box because that's over there. It's not mirror because that's over there. It is not tarot cards. It is probably voodoo, maybe? Let's see. Voodoo doll? It is voodoo doll. Okay. Oh, it turned off the breaker. We're gonna quickly turn it on. Now, this is risky. If I didn't have a smudge stick, I wouldn't run down here so quickly, because if you're stuck in the basement, you're gonna die. It's a really scary place to be. Now, in this case, I want to loop the ghost during this hunt. Or how am I gonna test if you have to be seen? I think I can test it like this. Oh, here we go. Let's test it like this. So I'm gonna smudge it now. Oh wait, I don't have a lighter. Oh, I'm stupid. It's fine. I'm glad we didn't loop it, dude. That's a beginner mistake right there. That's why you don't do as I do, but you do as I say. It's fine. I know my lighter is right there. I can actually get it during the hunt. I didn't get seen, right? Did I get seen? Oh, it doesn't matter because we didn't do the objective. Okay, so the hunt was extremely short there. You usually, when you see me play, you see that I have super long hunts. Why is that? There's something very important to know about using the cursed possession. If you use the cursed possession, there's some kind of benefit. Now, every cursed possession has a different type of benefit. For example, the voodoo doll has a benefit that if you use it, it'll cause an interaction to happen. This can be an item being thrown around, or this can be a door being touched, or writing, or oh god. No, I can't do it because I don't want to be seen. Why is this ghost so freaking insane? Dude, if you find a ghost like this and it's your first game of Phasmo, just leave, please. Like, these are high-level ghosts that you don't want to encounter. This is like... Because every ghost is randomly generated. There's no such thing as spirits are always not aggressive. Or X-ghost is always very roamy. Every ghost has like a baseline... Oh my god, you piece of garbage. Has like a baseline of activity and this like random. These parameters are set at the start of the game. You will have like an active ghost or a shy ghost. Now, obviously, there are ghosts that are more active or more shy than other ghosts, such as the Shade will be more shy, the Oni will be more active, stuff like that. But most of it is just like complete RNG. Now, anyway, I'm gonna do the paramic objective as well. For the paramic objective, you have to point the paramic at the ghost and then wait for it to either do a footstep sound or do a kind of whispery noise on the paramic, which you can get from a pretty far distance. So usually it's safer to be far away from the ghost and then just point it at the ghost room like this. And you can check if you've gotten it by just looking at the objective in the book. So I'm gonna wait until it hunts, and then I want to check for the smudge stick really quick as well. Hello, can I get a sound? It's random. Sometimes you can't get it at all. Other times it happens immediately. Why do I shake it? Good question. So the range is like in front of it. So if I shake it, I increase the wide range. By shaking it, I like scan the entire area in front of me instead of just right in front of me. So that's why I'm moving it side to side. So I basically, because I know the ghost is like kind of roaming in the kitchen and dining area. So if I move it back and forth across that area, it'll pick up any sound that happens in there. Hunts versus ghost events, that's something I'm definitely going to get to. This is a lot more, there's a lot more to talk about. This game is super complex, so there's probably going to be stuff I miss. Hunts versus ghost events is something I'm going to be talking about soon, because it's very important to know the difference. Is it going to hunt? It's throwing. 14? Jesus Christmas. I'm just waiting for it to hunt again so we can do our test, because we just want to smudge the ghost during a hunt, right? And I think doing optional objective... Oh, God. Well, that's not very nice. So, what is a very important thing that just happened there that changes me completely immediately. So, when the ghost is a ghost event, it teleports the ghost, which means that it actually moved to that location. So, whereas earlier, I could reasonably assume that the ghost was going to start its hunt... Oh, Jesus Christ. I think it's doing a ghost event again. I could assume that the ghost was gonna start its hunt from that room right there, because that's the ghost room, which is usually where it's gonna start its hunt. Not always, but usually. When it does a ghost event, you have to completely change your safety strategy, because all of a sudden the ghost can be where the ghost event was, which means that in this case, if the ghost did a ghost event right there and then a hunt right after, I would have ran straight into it if I wanted to run to my hiding spot. So that's why you got to keep that in mind. If the ghost does a ghost event, change your escape strategy for the time being until it's been like a little bit and you can reasonably assume that the ghost went back to its ghost room again. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is what can happen. Okay, well, now we're getting hunts again, but I have a lighter, right? Yeah, I do. Okay. So I'm gonna smudge and then I'm gonna run. So I smudged it before. It might have seen me, but like I smudged it while it didn't see me, which I'm. Oh yeah, it immediately marks the objective. I'm pretty sure you don't have to be seen for the objective. And even if you do, it's extremely hard to not be seen, so you don't have to really worry about that. Although I'm pretty sure you don't have to be seen for this. Anyway, so I just hit the repel, just smudge the ghost close to the ghost. Smudge close to the ghost, and it'll do that repel objective. Now, smudge sticks are an incredibly important thing to learn how to use. How do you use a smudge stick? There's many ways to use a smudge stick. The first one is to prevent hunts outside of a hunt. So let's say, I'm just gonna take 2 pills so we can talk a little bit. So let's say that I am feeling a little unsafe, or I'm in a team and we're all a little low sanity, and I want to prevent hunts. How do you prevent hunts? First thing, keeping your sanity high. If for whatever reason you can't hold a candle or you don't want to hold a candle, there's other ways you can keep yourself safe. You can bring in crucifixes and you can bring in smudge sticks. Now, crucifixes are purely preventative. They will prevent hunts, but they don't do anything during a hunt when the hunt actually happens. Whereas the smudge stick can both be a prevention as well as a remedy to hunts. Now they can't stop hunts like in their tracks. They can't stop them while they're going, but they can give you a little window to get away from the ghost. If you are, let me first place the crucifixes. They're extremely easy to place now, because if you hold F, it'll show this like outline, which is where it'll prevent the hunt. So if I place this right here, you see that it covers the entire kitchen, and if I place another one right here, you can see it covers the entire dining. So in this case, if the ghost is still here, which let's quickly test that by looking if there's still orbs. Oh, orbs have moved. Oh my god. The orbs have moved. They moved, unless I'm blind. Have they moved? The ghost room is... Oh, there you go. So now it's the dining room. Instead of the kitchen, it's now the dining room, because the orbs have moved to the dining room. So unless they're in the living room. But very important to keep that in mind for placing your crucifix, because you want to place the crucifix in the ghost room. Because it won't always be effective, because as I said, the ghost can roam out of its ghost room, but it is the place that the ghost is most likely going to start its hunt from. So placing it in the ghost room is a good idea. And I'm still going to place these two like this, because the ghost can easily roam between these two rooms. So that's a purely preventative measure. You can place the crucifixes, keep yourself safe from hunts. Now they can only be used twice, so after they stop a hunt twice, they will stop working and don't do anything anymore. So keep that in mind. Now the other thing is using a smudge stick. You can use a smudge stick to prevent hunts for 1.5 minutes. There's 2 exceptions to that rule. The spirit will be disabled for 3 minutes, and the demon will only be disabled for 60 seconds. So, but usually you can keep in mind that if you smudge the ghost, you're safe for 90 seconds. There's some very important things to keep in mind here. If you use the smudge stick during a hunt to give yourself that safety window to get out of the ghost's way. So if you, let's say I am here, the ghost sees me, it walks towards me, I smudge it, for 6 seconds during the hunt, the ghost, oh my god, the ghost will not be able to kill me. You can walk through the ghost, and it won't chase you, so you can use that 6 seconds to get out of there as fast as possible, and go to a hiding spot. Unless it's a Moro, in which case it applies for 12 seconds. But anyway, that's beside the points. I'm just saying that because obligatory YouTube commenters gonna be like, beep, 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 beep. I'm so much smarter. It's for, if it's a Moro, it's gonna be 12 seconds. Anyway, whatever. So you have 6 seconds to get the fuck out of there, get away from the ghost, and keep yourself safe. When you do that during a hunt, it'll also apply the cleanse effect. So, and when does it do that? Because I get this question sometimes. If you smudge the ghost during a hunt, when you smudge it, it'll apply the 90 seconds timer. This doesn't start after the hunt ends. So if you smudge it right at the start of a hunt, keep in mind that the smudge timer has already been going during the hunt. So after the hunt, it's not going to be 90 seconds. It's going to be shorter, like 60 seconds or something like that. So keep that in mind. Very important. It's going to activate as soon as you smudge it, even though it's a hunt. Another thing that's very important. So you disable it for 90 seconds. What if you smudge it again? Like, what if you want to keep preventing hunts? So you smudge it again before the 90 seconds are over. Don't do this, because unless they change this, but they never put it in the patch notes, so I'm pretty sure that's not they didn't change this. If you smudge it, I really need a smudge stick, by the way. I'm going to be unsafe here. If you smudge it before the 90 seconds are over, it won't be an extra 90 seconds added on top of the existing timer. It'll just do absolutely nothing. So if you smudge the ghost at 80 seconds after you smudged it the last time, you will only have the remaining 10 seconds of safety, and then you will just be able to get hunted immediately. This is something that used to, like, confuse the shit out of me, and it used to make me think that I was not dealing with a spirit, or there was some weird shit going on, but this is just something that you eventually learn. Make sure to only smudge the ghost after the 90 seconds timer has been over. Now, how do you do that? A useful thing that I like to do. Now, I rarely put this into practice because I usually finish the game far before this becomes relevant. If you have crucifixes in the ghost room and you smudge the ghost, you're going to be safe for 90 seconds. Then usually I wait until it uses the crucifix once, then I know for a fact the timer is over, because obviously it just used the crucifix. Then you smudge it again, you wait until it uses another crucifix, you know it's over, you smudge again, etc., etc. So using the crucifix as, like, you smudge it, then you get the crucifix, you smudge it, you get a crucifix, is like a really easy way to know for sure the timer is over and you're not going to waste the smudge stick. I almost exclusively use my smudge sticks during a hunt, but that's because I am crazy and I like to run away from the ghost during hunts and stuff like that, which that's also a very important thing. Let's say you need to, for some reason, loop the ghost during a hunt. This is something that a lot of people don't do, because the safest thing by far is just to run the fuck away from the ghost and hide in a hiding spot that you know exists, instead of looping the ghost. But let's say you want to figure out if it's a phantom or an obake. Oh wait, we have obake. Wait, that's actually really cool. We should do this. Like, if you want to figure out some ghost that you can figure out during a hunt, it is important to know how to loop. Now, some maps are easier to loop than others. In this case, we have probably the best map to loop ever, because the car is extremely powerful. If you have a tall object like this, you can loop around the object, and because it's so tall, the ghost won't be able to see through the object, so it won't speed up during a hunt. It used to be the case that we would just loop the ghost for the entire hunt and never hide, because the ghost didn't use to speed up during a hunt, which made it, like, trivial. Like, you didn't have to hide at all. You would just loop a ghost around a couch and be safe forever. However, then they changed that, and now every single ghost except a handful will speed up during a hunt, which means that you can't loop a ghost for the entirety of a hunt ever, because it's gonna get you killed. Now, as long as you can break line of sight many times during a hunt, you can loop it forever, but that's something you shouldn't. You should always have a smudge stick if you plan on doing this, because your plan is basically to loop it for a little bit, use the smudge stick, and use that 6 seconds to get out of there and go to your hiding spot. You shouldn't bank on looping it for the entire duration. But anyway, the obake has a special ability where it'll change ghost model while it is hunting sometimes, which is really cool. So let's see that. So I'm going to use the cursed position now, which again you can use to get writing and dots as well, which is a super useful thing to use the voodoo doll for that. However, you can see that there's a heart pin as well. There's a pin on the heart. If I pull this thing, in that case it was the belly pin, which just made the ghost touch that door. If I pull it again, and there's a 1 in 10 chance, or like 1 in however many pins remaining chance that it'll be the heart pin. The heart pin will instantly trigger a hunt, which means you need to be careful, and it'll also trigger cursed hunts, which I talked about a little earlier but didn't elaborate on. What are cursed hunts? Cursed hunts will change a few things. First of all, the grace period will become a second shorter, which if you're playing on nightmare mode means that your grace period is only going to be 1 second, so extremely short, so keep that in mind. Oh my god, this ghost is crazy. Jesus. Now, it'll also mean that from that point onwards, the hunts are going to be 20 seconds longer, no matter the map. So on big maps, it will make it 20 seconds longer, but also on small maps, it'll make it 20 seconds longer, which the hunts on small maps, on the higher difficulties, only take 30 seconds. So if you use a cursed possession, it'll change, instead of being 30 seconds, 50 seconds. So it almost doubles the hunt duration. So you gotta keep that in mind, that the hunts are gonna be a lot longer if you end up using this thing. But anyway, let's go trigger a hunt. Now it's a little unsafe because the ghost could be there. Where are you? Okay, it's not there anymore. I'm just gonna keep pulling until it uses the heart pin. Come on. It's gonna happen one of these days. There we go. Okay. So we want to get the ghost to come over here. So let's see if we see her swap. There, you saw the grandma? You saw that? That's the Obake ability right there. So it changes ghost model. Every blink, it has a chance to change into a different model. I'm trying to see if she changes. I'm not seeing anything. I only saw it once so far, which is pretty rare. So I'm looping it, and she's not getting any faster, right? It's because this object is so high that as long as I keep her at the right distance, she will not be able to speed up. There, she became grandma again. So it's you have to loop her for quite a while for you to see it reliably. And also, lady ghosts are harder because they have a lot of ghost models that are very small, so they're hard to see over objects. But anyway, so in that case, I looped it for the entire duration, but let's say I was looping it around here, eventually it would have gotten so fast that I would have had to smudge and run away. So yeah, you can just literally just loop it around an object. What you have to keep in mind is don't go too fast, so it's going to double back, because the ghost will always take the shortest route to your location. So if you, let's say the ghost is looping counterclockwise, and I'm looping this way, if the ghost is right there, and I go so fast that I'm here, oh god. Well, let's try it. I'll try to get it to double back, which is really scary. So I go this way. See how it turned around? Because at that point, that was closer to me. Like, she was closer going that way than going the other way. So you also hear how fast she's getting. I have to smudge now because she's getting insanely fast. And I would not be able to outsprint her anymore. So then you smudge, you walk away, and you go into whatever hiding spot you know exists. So that's how you do it. It's pretty scary. You have to keep in mind, especially when looping with multiple players, it can be really overwhelming because there's like several people running around, and she will focus on the closest person to her, which means that sometimes the ghost will double back strangely, and it gets really confusing. So I would recommend not necessarily looping with multiple people, because it gets super confusing. But anyway, that was just a little loop right there. There's still much more to talk about, so I think we're gonna hop out of this game and hop into another game so I can show you the early game again, because this ghost speed ran the evidence, which a very important part of this game is obviously collecting the evidence, and if that gets so easy, then I didn't really get to show much about that. So anyway, I didn't do the paramic objective. You guys just got to keep holding the paramic, pointing it at the ghost. It's really not that special of an objective. I want to move on. So we know it's an Obake based on the ability and also based on the evidence, obviously. So yeah, there you go. Very cool. But anyway, let's hop into, I think, another good map to show. I mean, I think the best maps to show are just the small maps with regular hiding spots. So yeah, that's an Obake, obviously. You get a little experience. There's a lot of stats. Oh my god, that took 40 minutes. I didn't realize how much I talk. I talk so much. So you can see favorite room changes. It did it twice, so that's important to keep an eye out on. Anyway, we're gonna hop into a new game and talk about some more stuff. Alrighty, we got Cora Camper. We are on Edgefield right now, which is another farm map, or another farm map. It's another street house map. It's also snowy, which the weather is another thing I didn't even talk about last time because I think it was just clear weather. The weather has an influence on the temperature and the conditions outside of the map, but also the conditions inside of the map. So if you are dealing with, also, by the way, I'm freezing right now. You might have this yourself too. Sometimes the game just freezes for literally up to sometimes 20 seconds. I don't know why the fuck it does it. I have an incredibly powerful computer. It still does it, so don't worry. It's not your computer being stupid. It's just the game being poorly, I don't know, the loading is poorly done or something. So in this case, we have snow, which means that the internal temperature in the house is going to be much lower. So outside here, you can see it is very close to 0 degrees. It's a super low temperature. If you have clear skies, like no rain or snow at all, it's going to be a much higher temperature. So it's going to be like maybe around 8 degrees consistently instead of close to like 4 degrees outside. Which, even when it's snowing, keep in mind, it will never get below 0 unless it's freezing evidence. There is no situation in which the weather can make the temperature drop below the freezing point so you get fake freezing. Freezing will always mean you have the freezing evidence, which you can either see by the freezing breath or using the thermo to make sure. But anyway, I'm gonna keep my trusty EMF close by because this is like by far, in my opinion, the best tool to find the ghost room quickly. But yeah, I'm checking around. So what are we checking for? We're checking for cursed possession. There's a tarot card that can be right over here. There's a music box that can be right over here. Now, these spawns for the cursed possession are fixed, but they are different per map. So you'll have to eventually learn where every one of the cursed possessions is, which is so much better than it used to be. There used to be 5 spawns for every single item on every single map, which meant that there were like freaking 30 different spawns you'd have to learn across every single map. It was absolutely stupid, but then they luckily changed that to be much easier to learn. There's now only a few spots to find the cursed possession. But anyway, so I found the bone already. Just take a photo of the bone and pick it up. I'm walking around. I'm talking so much that I didn't really listen for the ghost. I also turn on the breaker, as you saw, which these things I talked about earlier. When I start the game, find hiding spots, find the breaker, find the cursed possession. Those are things you want to do right off the bat. So in this case, some hiding spots are blocked because I'm playing on professional, remember? So those hiding spots are also blocked. Now, there's sometimes, if you don't have a hiding spot... Oh, well, I turn on the light. Very interesting. So in this case, obviously we know the ghost is here because that's not normal. The lights all start off when you start out a mission. So the ghost is going to be here. Around this area, at least, which in this room specifically is a... Oh, what's that? Or did it just touch the light? It just touched the light. All right, I'm going to take a photo. I'm going to take 2 photos, which in this case, I took a photo, I took another photo, and it was a blank photo. There's nothing on here, which means that unless it is an obake, there's a lot of evidence that is super easy. So in this case, because I took a photo and I took another photo, it is either not fingerprints or it has to be obake. So because we're playing on professional and we're going to get every evidence, I'm just going to rule out fingerprints in this case. I'm still going to bring a UV light later and check for if there are sneaky fingerprints, but you can just focus on the rest of the ghost now, because there's a few evidences like that where if you don't get if you don't get them right away, you can just rule them out instantly, which will reduce the amount of ghosts super fast. Like sometimes I figure out a ghost without even knowing like all of the evidence at all, with still 100% certainty without even using any of their special abilities. Like you can rule out evidence which can give you information as well. Okay, I was talking about something and then I went on a tangent. There are some special scenarios on some maps that you have to keep in mind. In this case, there's this really weird interaction between this room and that room. They are very close physically, like in the map layout, but when you walk from one room to the other, they're like on the complete opposite side of the floor, but technically they're extremely close together. So what can happen is that the ghost is in the bathroom over there and it just starts opening and closing this door and you're like, what the heck? It's here, but it's also there. That's so far away. How is that possible? That's because, remember, the ghost can touch stuff through walls. So that can also apply to stuff that is actually very far away from each other when you walk, but for the ghost it can just reach through the wall and it's no trouble. Okay, anyway, I'm clearly gonna check if there's any fingerprints, which it doesn't seem to be, so we're probably not dealing with an obake, which again, obake is the only ghost that can hide fingerprints. Alright, so as I said, I take the evidence that is easy to get. Now, it's probably this room. This is probably the ghost room, so I'm gonna try and check for orbs here real quick. I don't see any orbs. I hope this is gonna be a little bit of a harder ghost. I also don't... Oh, well, there you go. There's orbs. So, again, very useful. We have orbs right there. So immediately, we know this is the ghost room. How do you figure out the ghost room? Orbs are extremely useful for that, but that's kind of like a cheaty way, right? Because I already, you don't always have orbs. So another way you can figure out the ghost is, or the ghost room, is using the thermo. If I have, I'm just gonna do that right away. If you've turned on the breaker, and then you have let it be on for a little while, you can then grab the thermo from the truck, and I'm also gonna take the writing book and the dots. We need a motion sensor and a photo of the ghost as well. You can take it and then look at this room, for example. This room is, I think it's broken. Hello? Oh my god. Sometimes it doesn't update. There you go. This room is 17 degrees, and this room is not 3 degrees, 14 degrees. So keep in mind, 18 degrees. Sometimes it bugs out and it doesn't update when you go, because outside it's extremely cold. Outside it is 1 degree, no, 1.9 degree, but inside it's much warmer. Unless you are in the area where the ghost is. Now, usually that's the ghost room. So in this case, it's 17 degrees in the hallway. But if I go into this room, it's gonna be 1 degree. So extremely obvious. This is probably the ghost room, because it's so low temperatures here, right? So that's how you can figure it out. Now, there's a lot of maps where this is much harder, such as the Maple Lodge campsite and the Camp Woodwind. These maps are extremely difficult because the temperature doesn't rise outside. Even if you have the breaker on when you're playing on a campsite map and you have like an area that's outside, the breaker won't increase the temperature because it wouldn't make any sense because there's no heating outside. So it's going to be much harder to figure out what the ghost room is. But anyway, so this case, we know it's a ghost room both because of the orbs and because of the temperature and because of the ghost activity, because it turned that on as well. Did it just touch a window? It did just touch a window. Interesting. I heard that sound, which eventually you're gonna get used to a lot of sounds. There's a lot of sounds in the game. There's window knocks, there's light switches, there's radios, there's cars, there's every single item. Like this item sounds like that, whereas a cup sounds like that. Every single item has like a different sound. So you can actually, sometimes I figure out the room based on the item that I heard. If I hear a fork, I know it has to be in a room or an area where there's forks, which I know upstairs there's not a single fork. So if I hear a fork, I know, okay, it's probably going to be in the kitchen area, so, or the dining area, right? So that's stuff that you can use. These are more niche things, but that's stuff that you can use to like figure out the ghost room or the ghost area, based. Oh, they turned off the breaker. That's really annoying. Based on sound. Let me quickly turn on the breaker. So the breaker is really important. Keep the breaker on if you want to keep your sanity high, because you can turn on the lights, and the lights will preserve your sanity unless it starts doing ghost events again. Remember? Yeah, and also a little trick from the ghost guide, which again, watch the ghost guide if you want to learn more. But if you have the breaker turn off, you know it's not a Jinn instantly. If you have the breaker turn on, you know it's not a Hantu instantly, because the Hantu can't turn on the breaker. Now, in this case, that's not relevant, but whatever. Okay, so what evidence? Let's focus on the evidence gathering now, because I've been talking about a lot of other stuff. So the evidence gathering, there's a few evidence that are really easy and a few that are really hard. The easy ones, also it's turning on a light, which means it's not a mare, because mares can't turn off on lights anyway. Because that's related to their ability, so we can just rule that out, because that's actually relevant here, because these are the ghosts that are left. Another evidence that's really easy is the spirit box. If I... Oh my god, we saw dots right there. That's fine. Let me try and use the spirit box. But when you use the spirit box, make sure to turn off all the lights. You turn... Oh my god, you son of a bitch! You're... Fucking thing. It gave us dots, it gave us writing. This is the hardest evidence by far. How am I so good at this game that I can't even explain the game without finishing the game? All right, anyway, let's pretend we don't know what the evidence is. If you have the spirit box, how do you use it? If I am using push to talk, so if I hold my push to talk key, you see that that little thing over the little mic icon next to FM that turns that gets filled when I click my push to talk. If I then say, where are you? Where are you? Sometimes there's trouble detecting. There you go. You see that X next to the ghost symbol? If that X turns bright, that means that it heard a question and it and you didn't get a response. Where are you? Oh my god. Where are you? So there, it heard me, but I didn't get a response. If you do get a response, that ghost symbol will turn like black. It'll get filled, and you know there was a response, even if you don't have audio enabled. So that's how you can do. So in this case, I could just spam, where are you? How old are you? Where are you? How old are you? Where are you? How old are you? Walk around the ghost room. Where are you? How old are you? Where are you? How old are you? If it doesn't give you the spirit box and you had the lights off, because you can still talk, where are you? How old are you? You can still get the X to show up, even if the light is on, but it won't be able to respond. It won't be able to respond to you because the lights are on. That's a little thing you need to learn. But if I did that, and I know the ghost is here... Oh my god. Which... It's actually... So... If I know the ghost is here, which you can either... So... God damn it, I just so much I need to talk about. Sorry, I'm going on 3 different tangents at the same time. The ghost has to be in the room for you to get spirit box. If the ghost is one little toe outside of this room, and you are using the spirit box in the room, it won't give you a response. So keep that in mind. That's very important, because it won't work then. Which can actually bait you a lot. So if the ghost is... If you know this is the ghost room, but the ghost has roamed out of the ghost room, you still won't get spirit box. So you have to try spirit box multiple times. Now, there's a really useful trick that you can do to basically 100% certainly rule out spirit box, which is if you get a ghost event to happen. So the ghost is a ghost event where it walks towards you and then it touches you. Then you use the spirit box, because you know, as I said, when a ghost is a ghost event, it teleports the ghost to that location. So if you use the spirit box right after a ghost event and it still doesn't give you a response, you can always rule out spirit box, because you know it should have responded because it was right on top of me. So that's very smart. Keep the ghost events. Using the ghost events for spirit box is extremely useful. So spirit box is a really easy evidence that you can rule out. Same with ghost orbs. If you look for ghost orbs and you don't see them, you can really quickly rule out, oh, it's not going to be ghost orbs, so you can rule out ghost orbs. Now in this case, obviously we saw them. So those are like the 3 fingerprints, ghost orbs, spirit box are evidences you can always get pretty quickly, and if you don't get them, you can rule them out pretty quickly, which can give you so much information. Like, even if you don't have any, if you don't get any evidence, let's say you rule out fingerprints, orbs, and spirit box, there's only 2 ghosts left that you can have. So even without finding any evidence, you can still rule it out, all 22 out of the 24 of the ghosts. So keep that in mind. Ruling out evidence is extremely important to do, because it'll help you out a ton to find the ghost. Now, another evidence that you can rule out pretty reliably is freezing temperatures. If you know that the ghost has been in this area for a lot, so in this case, it's actually moved because it's no longer cold here, unless it's bugged out. Let's see. Oh, wait, what? This hallway now. Wait a minute. Wait, oh, this is very important. I want to check. So there, you saw how I figured out that something was different because of the thermo. It's extremely useful. So now we're gonna look around and confirm that suspicion. Okay, so what's just a oh no, here you go. The orbs are actually in this room now. I saw an orb. Is it just gonna... Did it move immediately back? Are you kidding me? We saw it. You can't hide it from us. Turn off the stupid radio, you piece of garbage. Did it move it back? Where'd the orbs go? Oh. Oh, there. They are here. So they are in this room. Now, there's a lot of rooms that are a little bit more tricky for ruling out ghost orbs. If you have a small room, you know it's a ghost room because you've checked for temperature, you've gotten lots of interactions there, you know it's that room. You can just easily rule out orbs. However, if you're like in a long room like this, it can be pretty tricky to rule out ghost orbs because this hallway is kind of annoying and there's so many spots that the orbs can spawn that sometimes you won't see them. So keep that in mind. Sometimes you can't rule it out. But anyway, so it's this area. So this is the new ghost room now, which you can also see based on the temperature. But in this case, the ghost has been here a lot. It's down to 0.7 degrees, but it will never get below freezing unless it's freezing evidence. So that way you can rule out freezing as well. Now, that leaves us. So 4 evidences are pretty easy to figure out. Fingerprints, ghost orb, spirit box, freezing. That leaves us with 3 evidences, which are incredibly difficult sometimes to get. Now, in this situation, you saw we got writing and dots super quickly. However, those can be super difficult. It can take literal hours sometimes, like not even kidding, to get writing, which... What's very important about the writing is that you move it around with the ghost. So if the ghost leaves this room, like let's say in this scenario, it moved to this room, you should move your orb or your dots, or I can't speak. You should move your writing book and your dots to the new ghost room, because the ghost is only going to interact with that if it's close by, which is really important. Let me turn this on again. Now, so writing... even though writing only has to happen once and then you can see it forever, like the writing will never go away. You can see it in the writing book forever. It still feels like, to me personally, that writing is harder to get than dots, even though for dots you have to physically be there to see it happen, because the dots won't leave any trace. Like if you don't, if you weren't there to see the dots, you're out of luck. You're gonna have to wait again. Now you can also see dots by placing a camera on the dots projector and then going to the truck and watching from the truck. And there's one exception to this where dots you have to see, which we've seen dots several times here. It's just this like silhouette that runs through the projector. This green silhouette that runs through the projector. That's how you can see it. There's one exception, which is the Goryo. For the Goryo, you will never see it outside of the camera vision. So in that case, you can step further back outside of the ghost room, look with the camera to see if you can see the dots happen, or you can go to the truck and see if the dots happens. You will not ever see it like while you're in the room. Yeah, so dots and writing can take a long time. You have to have the dots around the ghost, have the writing book around the ghost, and then just hope that it interacts with it, which you can force that by using the voodoo doll, and you can also make it more likely to touch that stuff by removing all the other items out of the ghost room. If you, in this scenario, if I didn't have any writing yet, I could remove all these shoes out of the ghost room, which this isn't the ghost room anymore, but whatever, if it was. You could remove all the items so that there's only a few things left, your dots and your writing book, which makes the chance of it touching those things higher. So that's a little thing you can do. Now the other thing is EMF. It touched the keyboard in that room, by the way. Interesting. The other thing is EMF. EMF is just a bitch. It is not really necessarily a hard evidence to get a lot of the time, but it can be. There is like a 20-25% chance or something every time it does any interaction that if it is an EMF ghost, it'll give you EMF 5. However, that also means that if you are the most unlucky son of a bitch to play Phasmo, you can get, and I've had this happen to me many times, where I've literally had up to 20 things where I checked for EMF and I didn't get EMF 5, and then it still ended up being EMF 5 anyway. There's just something sometimes where the chance just doesn't apply. Like the probability just doesn't work out for some reason, and it just never shows EMF 5, even though it should be like a 25% chance every time it does something. There's sometimes just like streaks of 10 to 20 times that you won't get it. So that is why you can basically never rule out EMF 5. So in the case of fingerprints, you don't see fingerprints for a few times, you know 100% that it's not fingerprints. If you don't see orbs, you know 100% it's not orbs, etc. with spirit box and freezing. However, with ghost writing, dots, and EMF, they're on a different level where even though you don't see it, that doesn't mean it's not there. So you can't always rule it out. Now, after a certain amount of time, you can sometimes rule out dots and EMF, but I would never rule out writing. Writing is just so tricky, you can really never rule it out, in my opinion, no matter how long you've been there. This ghost is very, very loud, by the way. So yeah, that's why it's so important to know about the other 4 that you can rule out, because these you just can't rule out, and they're really hard to get. So you can, like, let's say in this scenario, let's say that writing was super annoying and we couldn't have gotten it by just, or let's say that both writing and dots were incredibly hard. We looked for orbs, we saw orbs. We looked for spirit box, we didn't see spirit box. We looked for fingerprints, we didn't see fingerprints. We looked for freezing, we didn't see freezing. With all that, and just the easy evidences alone, we already brought it down to just 2 ghosts. Only Raichu and Thay, which means that then we only need, I mean, dots is going to be for both. So in this case, you know it's probably going to be dots. And then the only discerning evidence between these two is either EMF 5 or ghost riding. So in that case, you just know you have to focus all of your attention on keeping the EMF close by, using the EMF every time the ghost does something, having 2 writing books, because 2 writing books increases the chance for you to get writing, so make sure to have both of the writing books in there. So that's how you can focus, and you can still learn so much about the ghosts, even when you don't get any evidence, right? So even when you don't get any of the hard evidence. So it's really important to rule out evidence if you're playing on professional or lower, obviously, because on nightmare mode, you can't do that. All right, so there you go. That's it in terms of evidence collection. Now, there's a few ghosts that have special evidence, such as the Obake is the only ghost that can hide fingerprints, and it's the only ghost that has a special fingerprint. The Goryo has a special dots, as I explained earlier. And then the Hantu will always have freezing, which is not necessarily useful on professional or lower, but it can be useful on nightmare if you don't, like, let's say... so it will always have freezing. If you have any evidence, it will always give you at least freezing. So if, let's say, you get, what is it again? If you get fingerprints and orbs on nightmare mode, because there's only 2 evidences on nightmare mode, you know it will never be a Hantu, because the Hantu would always have freezing. It would always show freezing. It's one of its 2 evidences. Same thing with Moro and Dio. They will always show Spirit Box. So if you, for whatever reason, don't get Spirit Box, you will never have a Moro or a Dio if you're playing on Nightmare. And then the last, so that is, and then for Goryo, you will always have dots. So keep those in mind. This is, I mean, I'm explaining some stuff about the ghost guide now, but again, look at the ghost guide for everything about every single ghost. I need to drink some water. Give me a sec. So that's how you figure out all the evidence. Which is sometimes, like, on small maps, it is fairly oh, I touched something over there. It's fairly easy to figure out, oh my god. Oh no. Oh god. Oh, it's a Thay. So that was actually, so I was not practicing what I preached there. Obviously, these missions are a little weird because I'm not really focusing on the ghost. I'm mostly focusing on explaining you stuff. This is a special ghost, by the way. This is a Thay. Because we've been so close to this ghost for so long, it is now incredibly slow. That is the Thay ability. It will get slower and slower the longer the player is near it. So yeah, in this case, you can see just how slow this ghost is. It is a slowpoke. But yeah, because I'm so focusing on explaining things, I'm not really focusing on the ghost. There, in that scenario... Oh. I was being really stupid, obviously, because I knew the ghost room had changed, which means the area where the ghosts are gonna hunt from has changed. And in this scenario, this is such a hard ghost room because it could hunt from over there, it could hunt from over here. So you need to have like a different escape plan. Oh my god, it hunted from downstairs this time? You need to have like a different escape plan in mind. You can't always run to the same place, which also, when the ghost starts to hunt, keep in mind that you can hear the sounds during the grace period. So if you hear that that you're walking towards it while you're trying to run away from it, you know you should go the other way. So that's what happened during that hunt, the last hunt. I ran to a location where I knew I had a hiding spot, this thing, but then I was like, wait a minute, the audio is getting louder. I'm running into the ghost. I need to beeline it the other way. So that's extremely important. Listen to your audio. Which, there's also another thing like that you need to keep in mind. While you smudge the ghost during a hunt, you get 6 seconds of safety, right? However, during those 6 seconds, the ghost will randomly start roaming around, which means that it can also roam towards you. It can also randomly roam in the exact location that you are going, which means that even though it's not chasing you, you can die immediately after the 6 seconds are over. So make sure to use your ears. If the ghost is chasing you and it's walking on top of you, even though you're safe at that moment, you're gonna die after those 6 seconds. So go the other way. Like use your ears. Your ears are very important. That's why I say you should always use a headset while playing this game. Now, obviously, we could have gotten a ghost photo. Obviously, we could get motion sensor. They're really not that hard to get. But I'm just gonna leave Phil and Thay. So we can do, I think, one more game just to tie it all together. I've talked about a lot. Obviously, there's so much to talk about in this game. this game it's so fun. You can play for 2,000 hours, and there's literally so much that I still learn on a daily basis when playing this game, which usually those are extremely niche things and very, like, rarely useful, but I still learn new stuff about this game all the time. Anyway, that was the Thay. Now with the Thay, if I can please use my, thank you. With the Thay, you can see how many times it got older, which I thought they said there was only 10 stages of the Thay, but yeah, in this case, apparently it got older 12 times. Or maybe it also counts the ability after it's already the oldest. I'm not entirely sure. But as you can see here, it changed favorite room twice as well, which the higher difficulty you play at. Let me just hop into a match because there's something I want to talk about with there. I'm going to hop into Ridgeview. I think the Street House maps are the best to explain the game because every other map has a little special thing to it that you need to keep in mind, whereas these maps are like the most normal, so to speak. But anyway, we got Marcia Birch, Candle, Crucifix, Motion Sensor. So in this case, we have to get the ghost to use a crucifix if we wanted to get that objective. I was gonna talk about... oh yeah, so with maps, some maps have special hiding spots. So some maps have hiding spots that aren't technically hiding spots according to the devs. However, we have come to learn that they are still extremely useful and work almost all the time as hiding spots. Now, what's really good and useful about knowing those hiding spots, in this case, we got a pentagram or summoning circle, is that because they're not technically considered hiding spots, they will never be blocked. So since a recent update, some hiding spots will sometimes be blocked, which means you can't hide in them. However, for example, on this map, there's the fridge right here, which the fridge has... I've hid here many times, and I have never died behind this fridge. That's because, as you can see, if the ghost wants to kill you here, that means it has to get into this part of the kitchen, which is such a small part out in the middle of nowhere. Why would the ghost get here? You will rarely die here. This is one of my favorite spots to hide. There's also a lot of spots like that on Grafton. Willow has only spots like that. So if you know some of those spots, which I can do an all maps run talking about all the hiding spots. I think I've done that in the past. I've done an all hiding spots video, which is in the guides playlist somewhere. I also heard a door up here. Yeah, I hear a door. You see that door move, right? You sneaky bit. EMF 5. So sometimes EMF 5 is not a problem at all. It's just one of those things you need to keep in mind that you can sometimes easily find it, but you need to keep in mind that you can't always rule it out because sometimes it just never does it. We took 2 photos, didn't get fingerprints, which this is something you shouldn't do if you want to get maximum money, by the way, because I'm wasting a photo here. And in order to get a perfect game, you have to get all of the objectives. You have to get all of the photos and all 3 stars, but you don't have to get the ghost photo or the bone photo. You just have to take any photo, or you just have to take 10 photos of any type, and they all have to be 3 stars. But that does mean that if you miss a single photo or only get one single 2-star photo, you can't get a perfect game anymore. And you also have to get the bone, by the way. You have to get the bone, all 3-star photos, and all of the objectives, and you get an additional bonus money after the mission, which can be really useful. Now, once again, we see big spikes here, which is suspicious. So that would have, if I got here and I didn't already get EMF, I would have been like, maybe it's EMF. But we obviously know it's EMF. We're gonna take this. We're gonna take this, and I'm just gonna keep doing this because it's like it's a pretty. They're really good starting items in my opinion. I've been doing a lot of grinding lately because I want to get a higher level. So these have been my go-to items to quickly figure out the ghost. Now, we don't know exactly where the ghost is. Some maps are a little tricky. It just touched the dirty water, which makes me think it might be here. I'm going to take a photo of that. Is that going to say dirty water? Or interaction? It is dirty water. Okay. That makes me think it's probably here. Let's start by using the spirit box. Where are you? Oh, it's freezing. You see the freezing breath right there? So that is also a confirmation that this is probably the ghost room. Because we're getting freezing breath right here. We know it's probably this room. Now, spirit box will be twins. So let's keep going. Where are you? Are you here? Are you close? Are you friendly? Are you French? Are you here? Are you close? Are you friendly? So remember, if the ghost is even a tiny bit out of this room, we won't get it at all. So I'm gonna turn off the lights over here and also try it in the 2 other rooms adjacent to it. Where are you? Are you here? Are you close? Are you friendly? Are you French? Where are you? Are you here? Are you close? Are you friendly? Are you French? Where are you? So in this case, I've tried it in many places and I'm not getting Spirit Box. So I'm actually gonna rule out Spirit Box, which means that we are down to 2 ghosts, Shade or Oni. And these ghosts have dots and ghost writing, so we already know we're not gonna have orbs. So orbs, I mean, we don't have to check, but in case I didn't know that for some reason, I could have looked for orbs. No orbs right here, as you can see. Just make sure to look from multiple angles so you don't stand on top of the orbs. Then I usually also, just in case, like if I didn't know it was freezing in that room and that was for sure the ghost room, I would also quickly check the adjacent rooms to like really be certain about it. So yeah, in this case, also no orbs. Then we are down to dots and writing, so we have to take those. I'm gonna get those real quick. Now, big maps are always kind of tricky. Some things don't, like, they still apply to big maps, but big maps can always be a little harder. Like, Spirit Box in large rooms is harder. Dots in large rooms is harder. Writing in dots is even harder in large rooms. So everything just kind of gets stepped up a notch when you're playing on a big map. So something you have to keep in mind. But I would say you shouldn't really touch big maps anyway until you're very familiar with the game. Because small maps are where it's at if you want to learn the game. Now I'm bringing in dots, so we're dealing with an Oni or a Shade, which in this, those are like the classic duo that you can kind of figure out based on their activity. We haven't gotten a single ghost event, but it has done a lot of stuff. So it could very much be an Oni. But anyway, I'm just gonna place the writing book and the dots. Now usually, when I place the writing book, you see me place them right next to the dots. Why do I do that? That's because the dots and because the writing book has a special property. If the ghost throws the writing book and it doesn't write in it, so if it moves the writing book but it doesn't write, that means it will never write in the book. That's the only way you can rule out writing. That's the only way. If the but remember, this only applies to if you're playing on a difficulty that has all of the evidence. It doesn't apply to Nightmare and Insanity mode. But if you have all the evidence and it throws the book, it'll never write in the book. So then you can rule out the ghost writing. So that's why I usually place it right next to the dots, because I have a reference point to where I put the writing book. Like if you just put it anywhere, it could move slightly and you would be like, did I place it there or did I place it slightly to the right? Whereas if you just place it always like this next to the dots, you know that even if it moves a tiny bit like this, you know the ghost moved that. I didn't do that. So that's why it's really important to have some kind of reference point with how you place. I always place the middle pointing towards the dots. If you do that, you will always, even if you weren't there when it happened, you will be able to come back later and see that the writing book moved and be able to rule out the writing that way. Alrighty, we didn't see our cursed possession yet. And I'm not seeing anything right now, which is interesting. I didn't have any. Could it be? It could be fingerprints technically, but no, because it can't be. So in this case, Jin is the one that has fingerprints, which Jin can never hide fingerprints. So you can rule them out. We knew we were correct. Also, are you doing something over here? That's a little annoying. That might mean that we are not dealing, or that it moved ghost room. Which again, I am being stupid. I didn't check for hiding spots before we started really playing the game. You should always check for a hiding spot before you... Oh, it was summoning circle. Yeah, you're right. You should always check for a hiding spot before you start, like, going for evidence. Oh, I hear you, man. Wait a minute. Is that a ghost event? Wait, is it writing in the book? It is! Okay, so in that case, we got ghost writing, which means it is a Shade in this case, which explains why we're not getting many ghost events, because the Shade has It's really rare for the shade to do ghost events. So yeah, it can be easy. It can be really hard. It's writing in the other book as well, which if you get the ghost to write in the book, by the way, like if you're right here and it writes in the book, that means you can take 2 photos. You can take one photo of the interaction, and then you can take another photo of the ghost writing. So that's how you can quickly get 2 photos. I don't have any photo cam right here right now, but you could quickly take 2 photos that way. Now the shade is actually a really mean ghost, because look at their evidence. The shade is a ghost that does very little activity. However, it has 2 of the evidence that are based on activity. Ghost writing and EMF are both based on how active the ghost is and how many things it does. So that makes the shade sometimes an extremely frustrating ghost to deal with, because it never does anything you can check EMF for, or it never writes in the book. So yeah, keep those things in mind. There's some tricky ghosts like that. I've tried to talk about staying alive. I think I need to talk about ghost events versus hunts. That's an important one. So, how do you know the difference between a ghost event and a hunt? A ghost event will, first of all, let me preface this by saying you shouldn't worry about this. If you get either a ghost event or a hunt, just run away. There is no shame. I mean, there's a little bit of shame once you get to a higher level, but there's no shame when you're starting out for just running away from a ghost event, because you should start out by just assuming everything is a hunt, because the worst case scenario is that it was a ghost event and you're safe anyway. But the opposite, if you thought it was a ghost event and you didn't run away, but it ended up being a hunt, the worst case is you fucking die. So if you just run away from everything that sounds like it's a ghost event or a hunt, you will stay safe always, and you can then use like your experience to slowly get better at noticing if it's a ghost event or a hunt. When they first changed the system to be kind of unclear whether it's a ghost event or a hunt, I constantly failed in identifying hunts and ghost events. But by just assuming everything was a hunt and just running away every time, and then using my like feedback of, oh wait a minute, I could have known that wasn't a hunt because X, I slowly learned to identify them almost with exact precision. Now, there's sometimes scenarios where I still run away from a ghost event because they don't exhibit any of the like telltale signs of a ghost event. But that's just that's something that you should always do. You should always run away if you're not sure. Anyway, I'm clearly gonna get a smudge before I keep talking, because you should always, at a certain point when you're like, no, you're starting to get into hunting range, you should always have a smudge. Now we're dealing with the shade here, so it's probably not gonna hunt for a really long time, but I don't want to be caught off guard, so I'm just gonna quickly get a smudge stick so we can just talk without any problems. So how do you distinguish them? What are the things you have to look out for? First of all, if a ghost is a ghost event in a room, it will usually turn off the lights in that room. So it'll instantly turn off a light as well as starting a sound. This will not happen if it does a hunt. The hunt does nothing with the lights, or besides like making them flicker. It doesn't turn them off. So if something that sounds like a ghost event starts and the lights turn off, you know instantly, boom, it's a ghost event. I don't have to run away. If a door instantly closes next to you while something like a ghost event starts, you know, okay, it's a ghost event. I don't have to run away, because the ghost will also close all the doors in the room that it does the ghost event in. However, so it won't always turn off the lights for a ghost event, because there's one special ghost event where it'll explode the lights, and for that one it won't turn off the lights. It'll actually explode them after the ghost event ends. But if you see the lights turn off immediately and you see doors close immediately, you know, okay, we're dealing with the ghost event. Another thing you can look at is, do you hear footsteps right away? As soon as the ghost event starts, you immediately hear footsteps, or you immediately see the ghost, you know, aha, I'm dealing with a ghost event here and not with a hunt. Because for a hunt, there will be a grace period in which the ghost is invisible, and it will not make any footstep noise as well. So yeah, the easiest way to have like some kind of thing to look for in terms of ghost events versus hunts is, the quieter it starts, the more scared you have to be. If a hunt starts without any doors closing, without any lights, without any footsteps, without any visual confirmation of where the ghost is, it's like a super quiet, it just starts blinking your equipment, and you hear like this singing noise or something, you should run the fuck out of there. Like, that is the quieter the ghost is at the start of something like that, the more dangerous it is, the more of a higher chance that it is actually a ghost event. So that's something you should keep in mind and just run the hell out of there. Now, that's sometimes how I still get baited, because sometimes a ghost event will still be super quiet, and then I run away, and it ended up being a ghost event anyway. But that's what happens usually when I run away from the ghost, because it was so quiet. So that's what you need to keep in mind. The quieter it is, the more likely to be a ghost event. But I would just say, take these things in mind, but just run away from everything that sounds like a ghost event until you learn the patterns super clearly, and you learn them through experience rather than me telling you them, because I can tell them you all day long, but you won't learn them from the top of your head until you experience them. Now, in terms of hiding, again, during a hunt, there are several ways you can hide. You can hide by just running into a hiding spot. Just going into a hiding spot while not being seen. However, what you should keep in mind is that, let's say the ghost is right there, and I go into this hiding spot. Because the ghost saw me get into the hiding spot, that means that it knows I'm there, and it's gonna walk up to the hiding spot and forcefully open the doors. So what's really important is that you break line of sight before you go into your hiding spot, because otherwise it's gonna kill you by opening the doors. If you're talking... Oh, God. There's a ghost event. Saw? It turned off the light. You saw that? It was still scary, because I obviously got a little bamboozled. But it turned off the hallway light immediately, which is how you could tell that it was a ghost event and not a hunt. So... you have to break line of sight before you hop into a hiding spot, which you can also do by smudging, by the way. Like, if the ghost is here and I smudge it, you can hop into a hiding spot, and it won't, like, know you were there. So that's very important, breaking line of sight before you go into a hiding spot. Now, another thing that's actually so super effective, especially if you didn't trigger cursed hunts, is just running the fuck away, man. Just getting the hell out of there. Getting the hell out of there, just running as far away as possible, is honestly such a good strategy. Like, I run all the way over here. This is not... I don't even have a plan right now. I just run the fuck out of there, run towards all the way at the back here. The only way I die is if the ghost somehow, in those 30 seconds that it has to explore the house, roams all the way from one side of the map to the complete other side of the map, which means it literally has to beeline it for there, and then kills you. That keeps you alive almost every time. Like, just running the complete other way. Now, I need to talk a little bit more about hunts. Objects block line of sight. So in this case, as I said before, with the fridge, you can hide behind the fridge, or you can hide behind, like, the piano, like right here. You see how this blocks line of sight very well. And it's only back here that the ghost could see you. It won't usually get there. So that's another... Those are like useful furniture hiding spots you can use. What's another thing that's very important when you're running away from the ghost is turning off your flashlights. The sooner you turn off your equipment, the faster the ghost is gonna lose you. Because even through walls, the ghost can detect your equipment. So let's say let's say the ghost spawns over there. It spawns over here. I start running away from the ghost. The ghost doesn't see me anymore from here, but if I have my flashlight on, it'll still keep detecting me because it's really close. So I walk down the stairs, it'll still detect me. So it knew I went down the stairs. Like, as soon as I'm on the stairs, it won't detect me anymore because I'm technically on a different floor. But keep that in mind, that the ghost will track your equipment through walls. So the sooner I turn it off, like, let's say I turn off my equipment. Oh my god. A cool ghost event you got right there. So let's say I turn... So in that scenario, the ghost would know I walked all the way over there. However, if I turn off my equipment instead, it only knows I went here and then lost line of sight of me. So there's a much lower chance for it to chase you all the way down. So that's why you always see me... Sometimes you see me loop the ghost around the car in Tanglewood with my flashlight off, and I'm not, like... I'm not getting killed at all. So breaking line of sight and turning your equipment off is a really important thing to know to stay alive. The sooner you can turn off your equipment, the better. So that's why turning on many lights on the path to safety is a really important strategy, because if I have all the lights off, it's gonna be dark as fuck. I'm not gonna see anything during a hunt because you can't turn on lights during a hunt. So what the hell am I gonna do? However, if I turn on all these lights, oh my god, it's turn off the breaker. That's why it's really annoying when the breaker turns off. But if you turn on all the lights, you can just turn off your own flashlight and then run to safety easily during a hunt. So always keep in mind where your hiding spot is. Now, another thing that you always see me do that it's complete second nature to me at this point, but you should definitely keep in mind, is that when I'm in the room, let's say this kitchen is the ghost room. When I'm in the ghost room, I always stand with my face towards the main area of the ghost room and my back towards the nearest escape route. Because let's say I was standing here, there is basically no hiding back here. This is a tiny area where I cannot hide. This will be stupid, because if the ghost starts a hunt in the ghost room, I first have to run over here until I can get on my safety route. Which means that this entire path is just wasted time, which can give the ghost, like, can just get me killed instantly. That's why you always see me with my face towards the ghost room and my back towards the escape route. It's something that's I don't even think about anymore because it's so obvious to me. But when you're just starting out, that might be something that you need to hear from at least someone. So keep that in mind. Keep your escape route to your back, but don't go tunnel vision too hard, right? If you hear the ghost, like, ghosts can always roam. So if you hear the ghost hunt from over there, don't run into it because you were like, well, that was the ghost room, like, it must be fake or something. No, if you hear the ghost here, you know it's here. Don't run into it, right? So yeah, turn off your equipment during a hunt. Stay with your face towards the ghost room and your back towards the safety area, and have an escape route in mind. That's how you stay alive. And if you have to loop, make sure you also have an escape route ready for after the loop. And don't be stupid. I'm definitely gonna do some more showcase of looping and hiding in a future video that's gonna be focusing more on how to survive during a hunt. This video was just a broad, like, showcase of literally everything, which I almost talked for 2 hours about everything, which I definitely didn't cover all of the nitty-gritty about every map, every ghost, every little thing about the game, but there's just so much to go over here. But I definitely gave you a very good baseline of stuff, especially, oh, there you go, ghost event, which in that case, let's say we didn't find the ghost writing there. Oni doesn't do those airball ghost events, so in that case we could have also figured out that it was a shade, but obviously we saw the ghost running. Oh, what? Oh my god, so there it sounded like it was coming from here, but it was actually up there. Very tricky, keep that in mind. So sometimes, especially if you have a smudge stick, just staying, this is gonna be a little spooky because we're in a hiding spot that's not necessarily safe. If you aren't exactly like, if you know that the ghost is gonna hunt soon, grabbing a smudge stick is such an important thing, which I see a lot of people do this, but just grab a smudge stick and hold on to it, because there's so many scenarios in which you could get bamboozled or you could get cornered, and then you can get yourself out of that tricky situation using a smudge stick. Smudge sticks are your friend. Use them during a hunt mostly, I would recommend. Just keep them as like a safe, like a wild card in case you need to get out of jail, like a get out of jail free card. But anyway, that was like a huge, if you're just starting out, you have way too much, watch the video twice or something, because there's way too much information in this video all at once to take in. But if let me know if you've played this game for a long time, did you still learn something new? If you have any additional questions that I didn't cover, please leave them in the comments down below. I won't probably answer them necessarily directly in the comments, because I can't, like, that's not gonna reach everyone, but I will compile the questions and then make another video and answer all the unanswered questions from this video. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. I talked a lot longer than I had planned to, so hopefully you learned something. Let me know what you thought. Now subscribe, please do so. If you liked the video, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. And if you want to join the lovely gamers here in chat, you can join us for twitch.tv/insym, or click the link in the description down below. And once again, if you want to learn everything about the ghosts, which that video was almost twice as long as this video, there is so much to know about every single one of the ghosts. I will link that video over in the top right, so make sure to check that out. These 2 videos should give you basically all my distilled knowledge from 2,000 hours of playtime, pump it into your brain and you are a pro even without touching the game. So I hope that's what happened. I know a lot of people say that they've watched my videos and they didn't play a single game, but as soon as they played one game, they were already pros because they just watched a lot of the stuff that I put out there. So that's very cool to hear. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.